Hey guys, what's going on? Back again with another video. As you guys know, a couple days ago I uploaded a video talking about The Last of Us Part 3 and a couple things for the story and maybe even the gameplay that I would want. So I kind of want to continue that because it got a lot more views than usual. I think it's around maybe 600 views at this point, which is pretty good. Not too many people commented on it, but just in case you have something that you want in Part 3 or maybe even the multiplayer game that's rumored to be coming out, just let me know and then maybe I'll talk about it in the next video. So for this, and the reason I picked this part of the Part 1 campaign is because this is exactly what I want more of in Part 3. A lot more action sequences, a lot more of the news station updates, kind of like what happens in real life whenever there's a national event or even a local event or a worldwide event. We all used to go to the news, turn on the TV, and find out what's going on. And a lot of people would agree, and I think it's kind of like voted on unanimously, that this opening sequence for The Last of Us is what draws people in or what drew people into the game and even the TV series. How it's very exciting in the beginning, a lot of action, a lot of explosions. We don't know what's going on. I think I would want, and that's exactly what I mentioned in the last video, is the fact that I would want more of this version of Tommy, Joel, Tess, and maybe Tommy's wife, where we get to see them, maybe how they met 20 years ago, because when the game pretty much gets going after the intro, it jumps 20 years later. We don't really see too much. We kind of saw some of that in Part 2 where they flash back to Ellie and Joel, how they met, maybe some stuff that went on, some arguments that they had, some conversations that they had. But I would want where maybe Part 3 starts off where Part 2 is. Kind of even the Black Ops 4 vibes where it takes place in between, Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3, I believe. Something similar like that where we kind of see what happened to Joel, how he dealt with Sarah's death. Maybe, flashing back also maybe showing parts of Part 2 with Abby, but the main thing would be this scene. Like maybe we even get to replay it. Maybe we get to replay it from maybe Joel's perspective, where Joel is on his way back to the house. Maybe we kind of see what he had to go through to get back to Sarah at the house and what he dealt with after it. Maybe we see some news updates. Maybe like the next day, him and Tommy are hanging out, watching the news. Make it more realistic, where what we do in real life or what we used to do. I mean, nowadays people just go on Facebook and Twitter, maybe even TikTok to see what's going on in news, or they Google stuff. But back in the day, it was pretty cool to go onto the news and sit down with your family or friends and see what's going on. Nothing really bad. I mean, it could be good stuff, it could be bad stuff. Maybe like something good happened in the world, and you used to go sit in front of TV and get updates on it. I think this whole action sequence, I think The Last of Us needs more of that. I know the game is majority of stealth mode, I guess I would call it, where you're creeping around trying not to alert the zombies. I think that is good to have parts of it, maybe even follow what Call of Duty does, where most of Call of Duty is action sequences and you get a couple stealth modes. I would want something more like that, where it's Call of Duty style, where we're getting action, we're getting news updates, we're finding out the early stages of the outbreak, what happened with Joel, maybe some more backstory of what happened with the fungus. I don't know. I think it's kind of understood. Maybe it came from outer space. If you know the reference that the game is based on, I think it came out of space, but maybe in this version, maybe in Part 2, they explain a government experiment, kind of going along the lines even like The Mist. If you ever seen the movie The Mist, a lot of that I think was government experiments and stuff like that. So I would want something like that. Even Cloverfield, where I think it was kind of like a private company or even the government experimented with stuff and trying to get into other dimensions. I think that stuff would be cool to maybe add some more science fiction into it. I know the fact is, though, I think Neil said it and some of the writers said it, a lot of the story is presented to you from the characters during gameplay. That's why it's really slow gameplay. A lot of times they're walking and talking. They didn't want to have that traditional gameplay, then cutscene, gameplay, then cutscene. You're getting a lot of the story as it's going on, as it's happening. But look at this right now, how exciting this is. This is what drew people into The Last of Us. Um, I would want more of this. I know we got some of it in part two with Abby when she's escaping the island, trying to get onto the rowboat with Lev. I think that was amazing. I think those two parts stick out the most. And then obviously the hospital scene at the end of part one. But I think all these action sequences, I think, are what drew people in. I think it's almost like I think even some people might have said it, like it's almost like we have to go through the stealth, slow parts to get to the good action parts. I think what if they did more the opposite? Why don't they do more action and then a couple stealth parts? I think would be pretty cool, because I almost only want to play the Abby parts where there's action going on, where you're, like I said, where you're on the horse, you're trying to escape, and you're trying to, get to Lev or save Lev and stuff like that. I think those action sequences are really nice. I would want more of that. Again, early Joel, 30-year-old, mid-30s Joel, maybe span within, just keep it within like a 5 year. Maybe they'll even, or do like DLCs. You get like the first 5 years of what Joel had to deal with, then you do like a second DLC or something like that, or maybe even the next game. You don't want to fast forward too much, I don't think, and just do all 20 years in one game. I think maybe call it like The Last of Us, the first 10 years or something like that. I think would be kind of cool. Give it like a cool little name. And we get to see what Joel dealt with, how he went through his first 10 years after Sarah's death. I think would be something really amazing to do. Again, just some ideas, and I've mentioned in the other video that I've done this for a couple years now for a lot of studios. Sometimes it works, sometimes they have other ideas that they want to use, which is fine. But I just think it'd be really cool if we got to see Joel when he was younger, how he met Tess, maybe even give some more backstory of Ellie, because I think Ellie, they said, is like 14, and she's 19 in part two. Maybe a little bit more of her, what happened after the hospital scene and stuff like that would be really cool. I know they kind of did that in the game, because I think they escape the hospital and then a couple years passes and then they make it to Jackson, I believe. I think would be really cool. Again, I mean, that's pretty much it. More action, early Outbreak, get some news updates, make it very realistic and almost like a horror movie or science fiction. Get a backstory of the fungus. Was it something that just happened with nature? Was it just something from outer space? Or even, like I said, government experiment, maybe a private experiment. See, or we could have another crew. I'm not going to dive too much into another crew theory, but I think that'd be really cool. Also, I think people just flip out because they love Joel, they love Ellie, they love Tommy, they love the main characters. So I think, just to wrap it up, I would just call it like The Last of Us Part 3, the first 10 years or something like that. I don't know when the game came out. I think, is it 10 years since the game came out? That would be kind of cool too, a clever little way to tie everything in. Again, this would be awesome. We see what happens here, then we don't see anything after that for another 20 years. After this scene is finished, you see Joel in his 50s, I would assume 50s, maybe even 60s. I don't know if we actually got an age, or maybe we get to see Tommy, how Tommy is, what he dealt with, maybe him and his wife. Maybe into that. Maybe end it in part 3. You start like this, and then it jumps to Tommy. Then you go back to Joel and see how he dealt with Sarah's death right after it happened. Kind of the same thing they did with Ellie, how she was at the funeral or the gravesite. I think that'd be a good idea, just to kind of fill in some gaps. I think would be really nice. I think even have it inside the series would be really cool. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that. I'll see you guys later. But I'll show you real quickly. Like I said, after the intro, it's just going to jump to 20 years later. I think you guys all know that. I think it'd be really cool to fill in some of that first 5 years, first 10 years. Don't know necessarily if it needs to be a 20-hour game. Like I said, they could just tack it onto the multiplayer mode. I think would be really nice too, or maybe combine the multiplayer, battle royale, and campaign. Maybe even making competitive a Call of Duty. I think would be really nice. So there's another competitor for Call of Duty, but that might be kind of tough to compete with Call of Duty. Maybe they don't want to do that. Again, if they could put it in multiplayer, have it like a little multiplayer mini campaign. Um, so I don't know if people would complain. I know in Call of Duty Black Ops 4, people definitely complain that the campaign was scrapped. So I don't know if they would want to do that. But anyways, I'll leave it at that. I'll see you guys later.